Kyle Johnson floated in the massive alien station orbiting Jupiter. The walls around him seemed to glow with their own light. Strange symbols moved across surfaces like living things. He had never seen anything so beautiful or terrifying in his life. 3 months ago, he was just another diplomat from Earth. Now he spoke for all of humanity to beings from across the galaxy. The aliens called themselves the Galactic Council. 12 different species had joined together to keep peace in their part of space. Some looked like giant crystals that sang when they talked. Others were covered in hard shells like enormous insects. A few seemed to be made of pure energy that shifted and danced in the air. Kyle tried not to stare too much. Earth's first contact protocols had not prepared him for this. Captain Lisa Murphy stood beside him. She wore her military uniform with quiet pride. Her job was to understand how these aliens fought and what their weapons could do. So far, she did not like what she learned. The aliens seemed more interested in hiding than fighting. Their ships were built like fortresses. They had thick armor and powerful shields, but their weapons were weak. Lisa had studied war for 20 years. She knew the difference between warriors and people who just wanted to survive. The crystal alien named Veltar spoke in perfect English. The translator technology still amazed Kyle. Veltar's voice sounded like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "Humans of Earth," the alien said, "we have watched your species for some time. You have achieved spaceflight faster than most races. You show great promise. This is why we offer you protection." Kyle listened carefully. The offer sounded generous, at first. The Council would place a fleet of ships around Earth's solar system. They would build shield generators on the Moon and Mars. No enemy could reach Earth while the Council watched over them. Humanity would be safe from all the dangers that filled the dark spaces between stars. "The Crimson Dominion grows stronger each year," Veltar continued. "They are a warrior race that conquers other species for sport. They turn planets into ash and enslave survivors. Your solar system sits directly in their path of expansion. Without protection, you will all die within 10 years. Lisa felt her blood turn cold. She had read the intelligence reports about this Crimson Dominion. They commanded fleets of warships larger than cities. Their soldiers were bred for battle from birth. They had destroyed civilizations that were thousands of years older than humanity. Earth's small fleet of exploration ships would not last 5 minutes against them. But the protection came with a price. Kyle read through the agreement carefully. Humanity would become what the aliens called a client species. Earth's government would need permission from the Council before making important decisions. Humans could not develop certain technologies. They especially could not build faster than light weapons or quantum manipulation devices. Earth would provide resources to the Council and follow their rules for galactic harmony. Admiral Jake Collins had joined them from Earth via quantum communication. His image flickered slightly in the holographic display. "What about our independence?" he asked. "What happens if we want to explore the galaxy on our own terms?" The insect alien, called Zixtal, clicked its mandibles. "Independence is a luxury for species that can protect themselves. The Crimson Dominion does not negotiate. They do not show mercy. You must choose between freedom and survival. You cannot have both." Kyle felt frustrated. He had spent his career solving problems through negotiation and compromise. These aliens presented only 2 choices: accept protection and give up freedom, or face certain death. There had to be another way. Humans had always found another way when the situation seemed impossible. "Can you tell us more about the Crimson Dominion?" Lisa asked. "How do they fight? What are their weaknesses?" Veltar's crystal body dimmed slightly. "They use overwhelming force against any resistance. Their dreadnoughts can crack planets in half. Their bioweapons kill every living thing on a world in hours. They have no weaknesses that we have discovered. This is why the Council focuses on defense rather than attack." Lisa exchanged a look with Kyle. Something about the alien's answer bothered her. The Council had been fighting the Crimson Dominion for centuries. In all that time, they had never found a single weakness. That seemed unlikely. Either the Council was lying, or they had never really tried to fight back. Admiral Collins spoke from Earth again. "We need time to discuss this offer with our people. This decision affects every human alive." "Of course," Veltar said, "but do not take too long. Our scouts report Dominion fleets moving in your direction. You have perhaps 1 year before they arrive in force." Kyle nodded politely. "We understand the urgency. Earth will give you an answer soon." After the aliens left them alone, Lisa spoke quietly. "Something is wrong here, Jake. These Council ships I have seen are built for defense only. Their weapons are outdated. Their tactics are passive. Either they are the worst military force in the galaxy, or they are not telling us everything." Tier agreed. "The offer sounds too good and too restrictive at the same time. Why would they invest so much to protect one primitive species? What do they really want from us?" Admiral Collins looked thoughtful. "Maybe it is time to show these aliens what humans do when someone tries to back us into a corner. We have always performed best when the odds were against us." The three humans began to form a plan that would shock the entire galaxy. President Helen Carter sat at the head of the conference table in the Global Defense Council chambers. Representatives from every major nation on Earth filled the room. The debate had been going for 6 hours and showed no signs of stopping. Some wanted to accept the alien protection immediately. Others demanded that humanity stand and fight on their own terms. The future of the human race hung in the balance. Defense Secretary Ryan Brooks slammed his hand on the table. "We cannot become pets in some galactic zoo. These aliens want to control our technology and our government. That is not protection. That is conquest with a smile." The Japanese representative disagreed. "The Crimson Dominion will destroy us completely. At least under Council protection, our children will live. Dead heroes cannot build a future." Dr. Amanda Foster had been quiet during most of the debate. She was Earth's leading expert on quantum physics and had spent weeks studying the technology samples the Council had provided. When she finally spoke, everyone listened carefully. "I have analyzed the alien technology," she said. "Their faster-than-light drives are based on principles we discovered 50 years ago. Their energy systems are inefficient by our current standards. Their computers process information more slowly than our latest quantum systems." The room fell silent. Ryan Brooks leaned forward. "Are you saying their technology is primitive?" "Not primitive exactly," Amanda replied. "But it is very conservative. They have improved their designs slowly over thousands of years. They seem afraid to take risks or try new approaches. Our experimental quantum drives that are still being tested could outperform their best ships." President Carter felt a spark of hope. "How much better could we make their ships?" Amanda smiled for the first time in days. "If we could modify one of their vessels with our technology, we might achieve speed and power levels they consider impossible. The Council builds for safety and long service life. We build for performance and innovation." Admiral Collins joined the meeting via secure connection from Luna Base. "I have been thinking about this problem from a military perspective. The Council fights defensive wars because that is their nature. They build walls and hide behind them. But walls can be broken if you hit them hard enough and fast enough." Kyle Johnson had returned from the alien station that morning. He looked tired but determined. "I think we should make them a counteroffer, something they will never expect." "What did you have in mind?" President Carter asked. Kyle stood and activated the wall display. It showed star charts of the local galactic region. Red markers indicated known Crimson Dominion territory. Blue markers showed Council space. Earth sat right on the border between them. "We tell them we don't want protection," Kyle said. "We want intelligence about the enemy and one Council warship to modify with our technology. Then we go hunting." The room erupted in arguments. Several representatives called the idea insane. The Chinese delegate pointed out that humanity had never fought a space battle. The Council had warned them that the Crimson Dominion commanded thousands of warships. Ryan Brooks stood up. Sometimes the best defense is a good offense. If these Dominion forces expect easy conquest, they might not be prepared for real resistance. Hit them hard when they are not expecting it, and you can win battles against superior numbers. Dr. Foster nodded in agreement. The psychological factor could be important. The Council fights to avoid losing. We could fight to win. That difference in mindset might give us advantages that pure technology cannot. Admiral Collins had been studying Dominion tactics for weeks. From what the Council has told us, the Dominion relies on fear and overwhelming force. They probably have not faced an enemy that fights back effectively in generations. Their commanders might not know how to handle unexpected resistance. President Carter called for order. The debate continued for another 2 hours, but gradually opinion shifted toward Kyle's proposal. The idea was dangerous beyond measure. One ship against an empire that controlled hundreds of star systems, but it was better than surrender disguised. As protection, the vote was close. 53% of the Global Defense Council approved the counteroffer. Humanity would reject Council protection and ask for something unprecedented instead. Kyle returned to the alien station 3 days later. The Council representatives seemed confused by his request. Veltar's crystal form pulsed with uncertain colors. You wish to refuse our protection and face the Crimson Dominion with a single ship? That is correct, Kyle replied. We want detailed intelligence about Dominion tactics and technology. We want one of your warships to study and modify. Then, we want to be left alone to handle this threat in our own way. The insect alien Zixtel made clicking sounds that the translator interpreted as laughter. The Dominion fields dreadnoughts the size of your largest cities. Their weapons can melt continents. Their commanders have conquered 1,000 worlds. You would face them with one modified ship? Lisa Murphy stepped forward. We would prefer to face them on our feet rather than live on our knees. Humans have always done better when we choose our own path rather than let others choose for us. Veltar consulted with other council members through some form of telepathic communication. When they finished, the crystal alien seemed sad. We cannot understand your reasoning, but we will honor your request. The CSS Defender will be delivered to your Luna shipyard facility. Our intelligence files on the Crimson Dominion will be transmitted to your computers. Why are you helping us if you think we are making a mistake? Kyle asked. Because in all our centuries of existence, we have never seen a species choose certain death over comfortable slavery, Veltar replied. Perhaps we are wrong about the outcome. Perhaps you will surprise us all. The council representatives began to file out of the meeting chamber. Zixtal paused at the door. When the Dominion destroys your world, remember that we offered you safety. Your death will be on your own heads. Kyle and Lisa watched the aliens leave. They were alone in the massive chamber. The weight of humanity's decision pressed down on them like a physical force. Are we insane? Lisa asked quietly. Kyle considered the question seriously. Probably, but we have never let that stop us before. The CSS Defender arrived at Luna Shipyard on a Tuesday morning. Carol Adams had been waiting for 3 days to see it. As chief engineer for the modification project, she would be responsible for turning this alien vessel into something humanity could use. The ship was larger than anything humans had ever built. It looked like a flying mountain made of metal and strange composite materials. The council ship was everything Carol had expected and nothing she wanted. Thick armor plating covered every surface. The hull was designed to absorb punishment rather than avoid it. The weapon systems were conservative and underpowered. The engines were built for reliability instead of speed. It was the product of a civilization that had forgotten how to take risks. Lieutenant Commander Steve Parker joined her on the observation deck. He was Earth's leading weapons specialist and would oversee the combat system upgrades. It looks like they built a fortress that can fly, he said. That is exactly what they did, Carol replied. The question is whether we can turn it into something more dangerous. Dr. Greg Mitchell arrived with a team of quantum physics experts. His job was to replace the ship's power systems and faster-than-light drive. The Council technology worked, but it was limited by safety protocols and conservative design philosophy. Human engineering had always pushed boundaries that other species considered too dangerous to cross. The modification process began immediately. Carol's team stripped out 2/3 of the armor plating. The weight savings would allow for more. Powerful engines and additional weapon systems. The Council had built the ship to survive long battles. Humans intended to end battles quickly with overwhelming firepower. Steve's weapons team ripped out the alien energy cannon systems. The Council. Weapons were designed to fire steady beams for extended periods. They could wear down enemy shields slowly and safely. Human tactical doctrine preferred rapid bursts of devastating power that could penetrate defenses before the enemy could respond. The new weapon systems were experimental and dangerous. Railguns that could accelerate projectiles to near light speed. Plasma cannons that fired in rapid bursts instead of continuous beams. Nuclear missile pods loaded with warheads that could crack asteroids in half. The Council considered such weapons primitive and barbaric. Humans considered them effective. Captain Beth Turner had been selected to command the modified vessel. She spent her days working with the engineering teams and her nights studying Dominion tactical data. The enemy relied on superior numbers and firepower to crush resistance. Their ships were massive and heavily armed, but they moved slowly and fought in predictable formations. Commander Rick Hayes served as Beth's tactical officer. He had trained at the Naval War College and specialized in asymmetric warfare. His job was to develop fighting methods that would let one human ship defeat multiple enemy vessels. The math seemed impossible, but Rick had built his career on solving impossible problems. The key is speed and surprise, Rick explained to the senior staff. The Dominion expects enemies to fight defensive battles like the Council does. They probably have not faced an opponent that attacks aggressively in decades. We can use that against them. The quantum drive installation took 6 weeks. Dr. Mitchell's team had to rebuild major sections of the ship to accommodate the new power systems. The human drives could achieve acceleration rates that would kill most alien species. Only humans had the physical tolerance and reflexes needed to fight at such speeds. Carol supervised the armor redistribution personally. Instead of covering the entire ship uniformly, she concentrated protection around critical systems. The bridge, engines, and weapons received maximum shielding. Everything else was left deliberately vulnerable to save weight and space for more important systems. The Council thinks about survival, she told her team. We need to think about winning. A ship that gets hit has already made a mistake. Our job is to build something too fast to hit and too dangerous to ignore. The computer systems required a complete overhaul. Council technology processed information methodically and carefully. Human quantum computers could analyze threats and target solutions in microseconds. The new systems would give Captain Turner reaction times that alien commanders could not match. Steve's team installed point defense weapons throughout the ship. The Council relied on shields to stop incoming missiles and energy blasts. Humans preferred to shoot down threats before they could impact. Automated gun turrets covered every angle of approach. Nothing larger than a pebble would reach the hull without being detected and destroyed. The life support systems were simplified and ruggedized. Council ships carried elaborate facilities for long deployments and diplomatic missions. The human vessel was designed for short, brutal engagements. The crew quarters were cramped and basic, but the life support could function even with major hull breaches. Admiral Collins visited the shipyard regularly to check on progress. Each time he saw new improvements that impressed him. The engineering. Teams were not just modifying the alien ship. They were completely reimagining what a warship could be. How much faster will it be? He asked Carol during one inspection. About 3 times faster than their best ships, she replied. Maybe 4 times if we push the engines to maximum power. And the weapons? Steve answered that question. We can deliver more firepower in the first minute of battle than most Council ships can manage in an hour. The railguns alone can punch through any armor we have seen. The modifications took 8 months to complete. The finished vessel looked nothing like the ship the Council had provided. Sleek lines replaced the blocky armor. Weapon ports bristled from every surface. The engines glowed with barely contained energy. Carol had renamed it the Earth's Fury, and the name fit perfectly. Captain Turner took the ship on its first test flight in early December. The acceleration pressed the crew back into their seats with crushing force. The quantum drive responded instantly to navigation commands. The weapon systems locked onto test targets faster than human eyes could follow. "How does it feel?" "Admiral," Collins asked over the communication link. Beth smiled as she watched star fields blur past the main view screen. "Like riding lightning into battle. The Earth's Fury was ready for war." The alarms began screaming at 0347 hours Earth Standard Time. Captain Beth Turner rolled out of her bunk and ran for the bridge of the Earth's Fury. The ship was docked at Luna Station for final supply loading, but the crew maintained full alert. Status: long-range sensors had been tracking unknown contacts at the edge of the solar system for 2 days. Commander Rick Hayes was already at his station when Beth arrived. His face was grim as he studied the tactical display. 12 large contacts just jumped into the outer system, he reported. Configuration matches Dominion heavy cruisers. 4 more contacts are bigger than anything in our database. Beth felt ice form in her stomach. The Crimson Dominion had arrived ahead of schedule. Intelligence had suggested they would not reach Earth for at least 6 more months. Either the estimates were wrong or the enemy had accelerated their timeline. "Where are they heading?" she asked. "Direct course for Earth," Rick replied. "No attempt at stealth or deception. They want us to see them coming." Dr. Amanda Foster's voice crackled over the intercom from Earth. "We are detecting massive energy signatures from the unknown contacts. Those 4 large ships are generating power levels equivalent to our entire global electrical grid." Admiral Collins appeared on the main screen from his command center in Geneva. His expression was calm, but Beth could see tension around his eyes. "The Council has withdrawn all their ships from the system. Ambassador Veltar transmitted one final message offering to negotiate our surrender." "What did you tell them?" Beth asked. "I told them humans do not surrender," Collins replied. "How long before you can engage?" Beth looked at Rick. They had planned for this moment, but facing it felt different than preparation. The Earth's Fury carried a crew of 200 against an enemy fleet that probably had 50,000 soldiers. The odds were beyond impossible. 30 minutes to undock and clear the station, Rick said. 2 hours to intercept at Jupiter orbit. If we push the engines, Admiral Collins nodded. Do it. Make them pay for every mile they advance toward Earth. The Earth's Fury separated from Luna Station with smooth precision. The quantum drives hummed to life, and space began to blur outside the viewports. Beth had never felt acceleration like this before. The alien ship responded to human modifications, better than anyone had dared hope. Lieutenant Sarah Davis monitored communications from her station. "The lead Dominion ship is broadcasting on all frequencies," she reported. "They are demanding immediate surrender of all human military forces." "What happens if we refuse?" Beth asked. Sarah listened to her headset for a moment. "Complete extermination of our species. They plan to broadcast our destruction across the galaxy as an example to other races." Beth felt anger burn away her fear. The Dominion had come to Earth expecting easy conquest. They had not prepared for resistance. That overconfidence might be the only advantage humanity would get. The enemy fleet became visible on long-range sensors as the Earth's Fury approached Jupiter. The Dominion ships were enormous. The heavy cruisers were each larger than Luna Station. The 4 dreadnoughts were floating cities covered with weapon turrets and shield generators. Beth had studied their capabilities in Council intelligence files, but seeing them in person was overwhelming. "Contact bearing 27 Mark IV, Rick announced. "Lead cruiser is moving to intercept us." Beth studied the tactical display. The Dominion commander was making a mistake. He was sending one ship to deal with what his sensors showed as a single Council vessel. The aliens had no idea what the Earth's Fury could really do. "Battle stations," Beth ordered. "All hands prepare for combat." The crew moved with practiced efficiency. Months of training and simulation had prepared them for this moment. Weapon systems came online with deadly precision. Shield generators reached full power. The Earth's Fury transformed from exploration, vessel to instrument of war. The Dominion cruiser opened fire at maximum range. Energy beams lanced through space toward the human ship. Beth watched the incoming fire on her tactical screen and felt time slow down around her. "Evasive maneuvers," she ordered. The Earth's Fury twisted through space like a living thing. The quantum drives responded instantly to navigation commands. Beams that should have vaporized the ship passed harmlessly through empty space. The Dominion gunners had aimed where their target should have been instead of where it was going. "Return fire," Beth commanded. The railguns spoke first. Projectiles accelerated to impossible speeds, punched through the Dominion cruiser's shields, like they were made of paper. Metal and atmosphere exploded from the alien hull in brilliant flashes. The enemy ship staggered under impacts its designers had never imagined possible. Plasma cannons fired next. Bursts of superheated matter tore into the cruiser's armor plating. The alien ship had been built to withstand steady beam weapons. It could not handle the concentrated fury of human rapid-fire systems. Nuclear missiles launched from concealed pods. The Dominion point defense systems tried to intercept them, but the warheads moved too fast and maneuvered too aggressively. Explosions bloomed along the enemy hull like deadly flowers. Radiation and electromagnetic pulses disrupted alien electronics throughout the ship. The battle lasted less than 5 minutes. The Dominion cruiser broke apart in a cascade of secondary explosions. Debris scattered across thousands of kilometers of space. The Earth's Fury emerged from the engagement without a scratch on its hull. "Holy hell," Commander Hayes whispered. "We actually did it." Beth felt a moment of savage satisfaction before reality returned. They had destroyed one ship. 15 more. "We're heading toward Earth with murder in their hearts." "Signal Admiral Collins," she ordered. "Tell him we hurt them. Now let's see how many more we can take with us." The Dominion fleet was no longer approaching casually. The destruction of their lead cruiser had gotten their attention. The massive dreadnoughts were deploying in battle formation. Energy signatures indicated they were charging their main weapons to full power. War Chieftain Kraldex commanded the Dominion fleet from his flagship, the Crimson Death. He had conquered 47 worlds for the glory of the Empire. Never in his career had he seen a Council ship fight with such ferocity. The humans were proving more dangerous than intelligence reports had suggested. "All ships target the primitive vessel," he ordered. "I want it vaporized." The Dominion fleet opened fire with everything they had, space filled with energy beams and missiles. The firepower was enough to crack a moon in half. But the Earth's Fury was no longer where they aimed. The human ship danced between the incoming destruction with impossible grace. Beth pushed her ship and crew to their limits. The quantum drives screamed as they changed direction faster than physics should allow. The inertial compensators struggled to keep the crew conscious under crushing acceleration. But they stayed alive and kept fighting. The Earth's Fury struck, back like an angry wasp. Hit-and-run attacks damaged enemy ships faster than they could repair the damage. Human weapons proved devastatingly effective against Dominion technology. The aliens had not faced innovative tactics in centuries. The running battle continued across the outer solar system. The Earth's Fury used asteroids for cover and Jupiter's gravity well to slingshot around enemy formations. Dominion ships exploded one by one as human ingenuity overcame alien firepower. but there were too many enemies and too few humans. The Earth's fury took damage as the battle continued. Shield generators failed under concentrated fire. Hull breaches vented atmosphere into space. The crew worked frantically to keep their ship fighting. "We can't keep this up forever," Rick warned. Beth knew he was right. They had proven that humans could fight. Now they needed to prove they could win. The Earth's fury was dying. Captain Beth Turner could feel her ship's pain through the deck plating beneath her feet. Hull breaches had claimed 3 compartments. The port shield generator was offline. 2 of the railguns had been destroyed by direct hits, but they were still fighting, and the Dominion fleet was learning to fear them. "Damage report," Beth called out over the sound of emergency alarms. Lieutenant Tom Burke worked frantically at his engineering station. "We have lost 30% of our armor. The quantum drive is operating at 60% efficiency. Life support is stable, but we are venting atmosphere from sections 7 through 9. Commander Rick Hayes studied the tactical display with grim satisfaction. "We have destroyed 6 Dominion cruisers and damaged 4 more. The enemy is deploying in defensive formations instead of attacking Earth directly. That was something at least." The Earth's fury had bought time for the planet below, but time was running out fast. The Dominion dreadnoughts were moving into position for a final assault. Their massive weapons could overwhelm the human ship through sheer firepower. War Chieftain Kraldex was furious. The primitive humans had destroyed more of his ships than the Council had managed in a century of warfare. His commanders demanded permission to glass the Earth from orbit and end this embarrassment. But Kraldex wanted the humans alive for interrogation. He needed to understand how they had achieved such impossible combat effectiveness. "Deploy the boarding pods," he ordered. "I want their command crew captured and their technology intact." The Crimson Death launched dozens of assault pods toward the Earth's fury. Each pod carried 50 Dominion warriors bred for close combat. They would overwhelm the human crew through superior numbers and capture the ship before it could self-destruct. Beth watched the incoming pods on her tactical screen. This was exactly what she had been hoping for. The Dominion commander was making the same mistake that had cost him 6 cruisers. He was underestimating human capabilities. "Activate point defense systems," she ordered. "All personnel prepare for boarding action." The Earth's fury erupted in defensive fire. Automated gun turrets tracked the incoming pods with computer precision. Explosions blossomed in space as human weapons found their targets. But there were too many pods, and some of them reached the hull intact. The sound of cutting tools echoed through the ship. Dominion warriors were burning through the outer armor with plasma torches. In minutes, they would be inside fighting for control of the vessel. Beth had prepared for this possibility. "Seal all internal blast doors," she commanded. "Release combat gas into the boarding zones." The Earth's fury had been designed for exactly this situation. Internal security systems could isolate different sections of the ship and flood them with various gases. Some were designed to incapacitate intruders. Others were designed to kill them outright. Dominion warriors cut through the hull and poured into the ship expecting easy victory. Instead, they found corridors filled with poisonous vapor and automated defenses that fired from concealed positions. Human technology proved as deadly in close quarters as it was in space combat. The boarding action turned into a nightmare for the Dominion forces. They had trained to fight other aliens who used predictable tactics and conventional weapons. Humans fought dirty and used every advantage they could find. Booby traps exploded in sealed corridors. Security doors slammed shut at the worst possible moments. The ship itself seemed to be fighting against them. But the real surprise came when the Dominion thought they had won. A team of warriors reached the bridge and prepared to capture the human command crew. They found Captain Turner waiting for them with a smile on her face. "Thank you for boarding my ship," she said calmly. "You have made this much easier." The Dominion warriors did not understand until it was too late. The Earth's fury suddenly accelerated at maximum power directly toward the Crimson Death. The quantum drive screamed as they pushed beyond safe operating limits. Space twisted around, the human ship as it achieved impossible velocity. War Chieftain Kraldex realized what was happening with seconds to spare. The primitive humans were ramming his flagship. No civilized species would attempt such a desperate tactic. But these creatures were not civilized by any standard he understood. Evasive maneuvers, he screamed. All power to forward shields. The Crimson Death was too large and too slow to avoid collision. The Earth's fury struck the dreadnought amidships at 90% of light speed. The impact released energy equivalent to a small star going supernova. Both ships vanished in a ball of plasma that could be seen from Earth without telescopes. But Beth Turner had calculated carefully. The Earth's fury had struck at precisely the right angle to transfer maximum momentum to the enemy flagship. The human ship's reinforced prow armor absorbed most of the impact energy. The quantum drives shut down automatically to prevent cascade failure. When the plasma cleared, the Earth's fury was still intact, badly damaged and barely functional but still fighting. The Crimson Death was not so fortunate. The dreadnought had broken in half. Its massive hull drifted in two pieces, while atmosphere and crew spilled into vacuum. The remaining Dominion ships fell back in confusion. They had never seen tactics like this before. The humans fought without regard for their own survival. They turned desperation into a weapon more deadly than any gun or missile. Admiral Collins received the battle report at his command center on Earth. The impossible had happened. One human ship had defeated the most feared fleet in the galaxy. The cost had been terrible, but the victory was complete. "Status of the Earth's fury?" he asked. "Still functional, but barely," came the reply. "Captain Turner reports 50% casualties and major system damage, but they are alive and the enemy is retreating." Kyle Johnson watched the tactical display from his office at the United Nations. The Dominion fleet was indeed withdrawing from the solar system. They had come expecting easy conquest and found something they could not understand or defeat. Human stubbornness had prevailed where alien technology failed. The news spread across the galaxy with shocking speed. The species that had rejected Council protection had achieved what seemed impossible. They had defeated a Dominion fleet in open combat using tactics no civilized race would consider. The implications were staggering. Ambassador Veltar contacted Earth within hours of the battle. The crystal aliens' communication carried undertones of amazement and fear. "How did you accomplish this?" it asked. "The Crimson Dominion has conquered thousands of worlds. Their fleets are unstoppable." They were unstoppable against enemies. "Who fought like you do?" Kyle replied. "Humans fight to win, not just to survive. That makes all the difference." The Council would never look at humanity the same way again. Neither would the Crimson Dominion. War Chieftain Kraldex had survived the destruction of his flagship. His rescue pod was recovered by one of the retreating cruisers. He sent a message back to the Dominion High Command that would change galactic politics forever. "The humans are not primitives," he reported. "They are something new and dangerous. We cannot conquer them with conventional tactics. They fight like demons and care nothing for their own lives. I request immediate reinforcement of all fleets in this sector." The Dominion had learned to fear humanity in a single battle, but fear would make them more dangerous, not less. They would return with overwhelming force and new tactics designed specifically to counter human fighting methods. Captain Beth Turner floated in the medical bay of her crippled ship. The ramming attack had broken 3 of her ribs and given her a severe concussion. But she was alive, and so was her crew. More importantly, Earth was safe for now. "What happens next?" Commander Hayes asked from the bed beside her. Beth smiled despite the pain. "Now we build more ships. The galaxy is about to learn what happens when you threaten humanity's home." News of humanity's victory traveled faster than the speed of light through the galactic communication network. Within days, every major species knew that the primitive humans had accomplished the impossible. They had defeated a Crimson Dominion fleet in open battle using only one ship. The implications sent shockwaves through governments that had remained stable for thousands of years. Ambassador Kyle Johnson found his schedule suddenly very busy. His office in Geneva received communication requests from dozens of species he had never heard of before. The Free Traders Coalition wanted exclusive trading rights with Earth. The rebel clans offered military alliance against the Dominion. 3 council member species secretly inquired about adopting human tactical doctrines. The most surprising contact came from the Ethereal Collective. They were one of the oldest and most advanced species in the galaxy. For millennia, they had remained neutral in all conflicts and spoke only to other ancient races. Their message was brief, but shocking. The young species called humanity has demonstrated something we thought extinct in this galaxy, the message read. They have shown that courage and innovation can defeat overwhelming odds. We wish to establish diplomatic relations immediately. Kyle shared the message with President Carter during their daily briefing. The implications were staggering. If the Ethereal Collective was interested in humanity, then other major powers would follow. Earth was about to become a player in galactic politics, whether they wanted it or not. What do they want from us? President Carter asked. Unknown, Kyle replied. But species that have ignored galactic affairs for 10,000 years do not suddenly become interested without good reason. The Council was dealing with its own crisis. 3 member species had formally requested access to human combat data. The crystalline hegemony wanted to study human ship modifications. The insectoid unity asked for tactical training exchanges. Even the peaceful Botanist Federation inquired about defensive applications of human technology. Council leader Zixtal called an emergency session to address the growing unrest. For the first time in recorded history, member species were questioning the defensive strategies that had kept the peace for centuries. The humans have proven that aggressive tactics can work, argued Representative Veltar. Perhaps we have been too cautious in our approach to the Dominion threat. Their success was pure luck, countered the delegate from the Aquatic Alliance. One battle does not prove that reckless aggression is superior to careful planning, but the damage was already done. The Council's authority rested on the belief that their defensive approach was the only viable strategy against superior enemies. Humanity had shattered that belief with a single, desperate battle. Captain Beth Turner recovered from her injuries, while the Earth's Fury underwent extensive repairs at Luna Shipyard. The battle damage was severe, but Carol Adams and her engineering team worked miracles. Within 2 months, the ship would be fully operational again, with several improvements based on combat experience. Beth spent her recovery time analyzing the battle data and planning for future engagements. The Dominion would return eventually, with better tactics and more ships. Humanity needed to be ready for a much larger conflict. We need more vessels like the Earth's Fury, she told Admiral Collins during one of his visits. One ship can win a battle but not a war. Collins agreed completely. Construction has already begun on 6 new hulls. We are calling them the Fury class in honor of your victory. Dr. Foster's team is incorporating all the lessons learned from your engagement. The new ships would be faster and more heavily armed than the original Earth's Fury. Human engineering had improved dramatically during the modification process. Each vessel would carry twice the firepower and achieve even higher acceleration rates. But building ships was only part of the solution. Humanity needed allies and intelligence about their enemies. The galaxy was much larger and more dangerous than anyone on Earth had imagined. The Free Traders Coalition proved to be the most immediately useful contact. They were an alliance of merchant species who traveled throughout the galaxy conducting business. Their ships were unarmed, but they carried the most current information about political and military developments. Captain Susan Walsh of the trading vessel Golden Venture arrived at Earth 3 weeks after the battle. She was a member of the nomad species who lived their entire lives aboard spacecraft. Her ship carried exotic goods from across the galaxy and news that Earth desperately needed. The Crimson Dominion is mobilizing massive fleets, she reported to Kyle during their first meeting. War Marshal Thexhar has declared humanity a priority. Threat. They are pulling ships from other fronts to concentrate against your solar system. Kyle felt his heart sink. How many ships are we talking about? Susan consulted her datapad. At least 200 warships, including 20 dreadnoughts. They plan to overwhelm you with numbers so great that tactical superiority becomes irrelevant. The news was sobering but not unexpected. Humanity had humiliated the Dominion in front of the entire galaxy. They would respond with overwhelming force to restore their reputation for invincibility. Is there any good news? Kyle asked. Susan smiled. Actually, yes. Your victory has inspired resistance movements throughout Dominion space. Slave species are rising up because they now believe the masters can be defeated. The Empire is dealing with revolts on a dozen worlds. That was interesting intelligence. The Dominion ruled through fear and the appearance of unstoppable power. If subject species believed resistance was possible, then the Empire would face internal threats as well as external ones. The rebel clans proved even more useful as allies. They were a loose confederation of species fighting Dominion expansion on the galactic frontier. Their military experience would be invaluable in preparing for the coming war. General Marcus Stone met with their representatives on a neutral station in Council space. The rebel leaders were impressed by human achievements, but concerned about their inexperience with galactic warfare. You fight well, but you understand little about large-scale fleet operations, explained Commander Zara of the Wolfpack Rebellion. The Dominion will not send another small raiding force. They will bring enough firepower to sterilize your entire solar system. Marcus nodded grimly. What do you suggest? Hit-and-run attacks on their supply lines, Zara replied. The Dominion fleet will need fuel and ammunition for an extended campaign. Disrupt their logistics and you can force them to withdraw or fight at reduced effectiveness. The strategy made sense, but it would require ships that could operate far from Earth. The Fury-class vessels were designed for high-intensity combat, not extended patrol missions. Humanity would need different types of warships for different tactical roles. Dr. Amanda Foster worked frantically to improve human technology based on alien examples. The Free Traders had brought samples of advanced materials and energy systems. The rebels shared intelligence about Dominion weaknesses and tactical preferences. We can build better ships, she reported to the Global Defense Council. But we need time to implement the improvements. At least 6 months for major modifications to existing designs. Time was the one resource humanity did not have in abundance. Long-range sensors detected Dominion scout ships probing the outer edges of human space. The main fleet would arrive within 4 months at the current rate of approach. President Carter made the hardest decision of her career. She authorized the construction of 50 new warships using every available resource on Earth and throughout the solar system. The economic cost would be enormous, but the alternative was extinction. The entire human race mobilized for war. Factories that had produced consumer goods retooled to manufacture weapon systems. Mining operations expanded to provide raw materials for ship construction. Every person with technical skills was recruited for the defense effort. Admiral Collins established the Solar Defense Force with Captain Turner as his second-in-command. Their job was to coordinate the defense of Earth and its colonies when the Dominion returned in force. We showed them that humans can fight, Collins told his senior staff. Now we have to prove that we can win a real war. The galaxy watched and waited to see if the species that had rejected protection could protect themselves when the true test came. Luna Shipyard buzzed with activity 24 hours a day. Admiral Jake Collins walked through the construction bays watching humanity's first true war fleet take shape. 6 months had passed since the Earth's Fury's desperate victory. Now 12. New ships floated in various stages of completion while work crews swarmed over their hulls like mechanical insects. The new vessels were larger and more powerful than the original Fury. Dr. Amanda Foster's team had incorporated alien technology with human innovation to create something unprecedented. The ships combined Council defensive systems with Rebel offensive tactics and human engineering philosophy. The result was deadly beyond anything the galaxy had seen before. Captain Beth Turner supervised the final tests on the newest vessel, christened the Human Pride. The ship responded to her commands with eager precision. Quantum drives hummed with barely contained power. Weapon systems cycled through targeting sequences faster than alien computers could process. This was what humanity could accomplish when their survival depended on it. "All systems green," reported Lieutenant Commander Steve Parker from the weapons console. "Railguns are operating at 110% of design specifications. Plasma cannons show perfect energy distribution. Nuclear missile pods are fully loaded and ready." Beth nodded with satisfaction. The Human Pride carried 3 times the firepower of the original Earth's Fury. More importantly, it could sustain that firepower for extended battles. The rebels had taught humanity the importance of endurance in fleet actions. Commander Rick Hayes monitored long-range sensors from the tactical station. "No change in Dominion fleet position. They are still building up forces at the rally point in the Crimson Nebula. Current count is 187 warships, including 23 dreadnoughts." The numbers were intimidating, but no longer hopeless. Humanity would field 15 ships against nearly 200 enemies. The odds were still terrible, but mathematical analysis suggested they had a real chance of victory if everything went perfectly. Carol Adams had pushed her engineering teams to the breaking point, designing new ship classes for different combat roles. The Fury class served as heavy assault vessels designed to punch through enemy formations. The new Ranger class ships were smaller and faster, built for reconnaissance and hit-and-run attacks on supply lines. The massive Titan-class vessels carried enough firepower to engage Dominion dreadnoughts in single combat. The fleet composition reflected human tactical doctrine developed through months of studying alien warfare. Instead of deploying in the defensive formations favored by the Council, humanity would use aggressive tactics based on speed and concentration of force. General Marcus Stone coordinated with rebel allies operating behind Dominion lines. Their raids on supply convoys had forced the enemy to dedicate significant resources to protecting their logistics. Every ship guarding a supply depot was one less vessel available for the assault on Earth. "The Wolf Pack reports successful strikes against 3 ammunition convoys," he told Admiral Collins during their daily briefing. "The Dominion is having trouble maintaining their advanced fleet at full combat readiness." Collins studied the tactical reports with growing optimism. "How long can the rebels sustain these operations?" "Maybe 2 more months," Marcus replied. "After that, the Dominion will either withdraw or commit to the attack despite supply shortages." 2 months would be enough time to complete the fleet construction and train the crews. Humanity had recruited volunteers from every branch of Earth's military and space services. The best pilots, gunners, and engineers had been selected for the most dangerous mission in human history. Captain Lisa Murphy commanded the Ranger-class vessel Swift Strike. Her ship was currently testing new stealth systems developed from Rebel technology. The ability to approach Dominion vessels undetected would be crucial for the hit-and-run tactics humanity planned to employ. "Stealth field is holding at 96% efficiency," her sensor officer reported. "Dominion scanners should not be able to detect us beyond 5,000 kilometers." Lisa smiled grimly. 5,000 kilometers was point-blank range in space combat. Her ship could get close enough to deliver devastating attacks before the enemy knew they were under assault. The Swift Strike carried experimental weapons designed specifically for surprise attacks. The training exercises had revealed both strengths and weaknesses in human tactics. Individual ships performed brilliantly, but fleet coordination needed improvement. Human crews were aggressive and innovative, but sometimes forgot to work together effectively. Admiral Collins addressed this problem by promoting officers who showed natural leadership abilities regardless of their formal rank. Captain Turner became Fleet Tactical Coordinator despite being junior to several other commanders. Her combat experience and understanding of enemy psychology made her invaluable for planning operations. The Galactic Council watched humanity's preparations with growing amazement. Species that had fought the Dominion for centuries could not believe that primitives with primitive technology were planning an offensive campaign. Most council members expected the humans to be wiped out quickly and decisively. But a few voices within the council began to argue for a different approach. The crystalline hegemony formally requested permission to send military observers to study human tactics. The insectoid unity offered to share intelligence about Dominion fleet movements. Even the cautious Aquatic Alliance agreed to provide technical assistance with shield technology. Ambassador Kyle Johnson found himself coordinating a growing alliance of species interested in human military methods. The free traders expanded their information-sharing agreements. The rebels increased their sabotage operations. Several minor species offered to provide raw materials for ship construction. "We are no longer fighting alone," Kyle reported to President Carter. "Half the galaxy wants to see if humans can accomplish the impossible twice." President Carter authorized the deployment of human ships outside the solar system for the first time. 3 Ranger-class vessels would operate with rebel forces to gather combat experience and demonstrate human capabilities. The missions were dangerous, but the intelligence value was enormous. Captain Dan Rodriguez took the Swift Arrow on humanity's first deep space combat mission. His target was a Dominion supply depot in the Outer Rim territories. Success would prove that human ships could operate effectively far from Earth. The mission went better than anyone had dared hope. The Swift Arrow approached the depot undetected and destroyed 6 enemy vessels before they could respond. Human weapons proved devastatingly effective against Dominion technology. More importantly, the crew performed flawlessly under actual combat conditions. News of the victory spread throughout rebel networks and reached Earth within days. Humanity had proven they could fight anywhere in the galaxy with tactics no other species could match. The psychological impact was as important as the military success. War Marshal Thex Har received reports of the depot attack with cold fury. The humans were becoming more dangerous with each passing day. Their raids were disrupting Dominion operations across multiple sectors. He could not allow primitives to continue embarrassing the Empire. "Accelerate the fleet deployment schedule," he ordered his staff. "I want every available ship moving toward Earth immediately. We will crush this resistance before it spreads to other sectors." The Crimson Dominion's Grand Fleet began its advance toward Earth 2 weeks ahead of schedule. Long-range sensors detected the massive formation as it left the Crimson Nebula and entered normal space. 200 warships moving in perfect formation, with enough firepower to destroy entire star systems. Admiral Collins received the alert while inspecting the final ship construction at Luna Shipyard. The moment humanity had been preparing for was finally arriving. In 3 weeks, the largest space battle in galactic history would determine whether humans survived as a free species or joined the countless others who had fallen to Dominion conquest. "Signal all ships," he ordered. "Prepare for Operation Defiance. It is time to show the galaxy what humans can accomplish when they refuse to surrender." The Solar Defense Force moved to intercept the advancing enemy. 15 human warships against 200 alien vessels. The odds were impossible, but humanity had already proven that impossible was just another word for difficult. The final battle began at the edge of the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. War Marshal Thex Har deployed his massive fleet in the traditional Dominion formation. Heavy cruisers formed the outer shell while dreadnoughts concentrated in the center. The formation was designed to overwhelm enemies through superior firepower and coordinated attacks. Admiral Collins had different plans. The human fleet split into 3 groups as soon as they detected the enemy formation. Captain Turner led the main assault force of Fury-class ships toward the Dominion center. Captain Murphy took her Rangers around the enemy flank for surprise attacks. The massive Titan-class vessels remained in reserve for the decisive moment. All ships report ready for combat, announced Commander Hayes from the flagship Human Pride. Enemy fleet is maintaining standard approach formation. They have not adapted their tactics since our last engagement. Beth Turner smiled grimly as she studied the tactical display. The Dominion was making the same mistake that had cost them their first fleet. They expected humans to fight like council species with predictable defensive tactics. They were about to learn how wrong they were. "Execute Maneuver Alpha," she ordered. "All Fury-class ships follow my lead." The human assault force suddenly accelerated to impossible speeds. Quantum drives screamed as they pushed beyond safe operating limits. The ships scattered in apparently random directions before reforming at the last second to strike the Dominion formation from unexpected angles. War Marshal. Thexhar watched the human approach with growing confusion. Their ships moved in patterns that violated every principle of sound military doctrine. No civilized species would risk such dangerous maneuvers during actual combat, but somehow the primitive vessels maintained perfect coordination despite their chaotic movements. The Earth's Fury led the charge directly at the largest Dominion dreadnought. Beth Turner had personal scores to settle with the aliens who had come to destroy her homeworld. The ship's weapons locked onto target as they closed to point-blank range. "Fire everything," Beth commanded. The Earth's Fury erupted in devastating violence. Railguns punched through the dreadnought's shields like they were made of paper. Plasma cannons carved molten channels through alien armor. Nuclear missiles exploded against the enemy hull in brilliant flashes that could be seen from Mars. The Dominion ship staggered under the assault but returned fire with massive energy beams. The Earth's Fury twisted away from the worst of the damage, but could not avoid everything. Hull plates vaporized under alien weapons. Atmosphere vented from multiple breaches. The ship's shields flickered and failed, but the damage was worth it. The dreadnought was crippled and falling behind the main formation. Other human ships swarmed over it like hungry sharks. The pride of the Dominion fleet became a floating wreck within minutes of the battle's start. Captain Murphy's Rangers struck from the flank with devastating effect. Their stealth systems allowed them to approach undetected until they opened fire. At close range, Swift Strike and her sister ships tore through enemy cruisers with rapid-fire weapons designed for surprise attacks. The Dominion formation began to collapse as human tactics proved superior to alien technology. Ships that had conquered hundreds of worlds found themselves unable to respond effectively to enemies that refused to fight fair. The humans used every dirty trick they could imagine and invented new ones during the battle. But the sheer number of enemy vessels began to tell. Human ships took heavy damage as Dominion gunners finally managed to coordinate their fire. The Ranger Swift Arrow exploded under concentrated bombardment. The assault ship Righteous Fury lost main power and drifted helplessly through the battle zone. Admiral Collins watched the battle from his command center on Luna Base. The human fleet was fighting magnificently, but they were outnumbered more than 10-1. Even with superior tactics and technology, they could not win through conventional means. "Deploy the Titan-class vessels," he ordered. "Execute Plan Omega." The three massive Titan ships had remained hidden behind Jupiter throughout the early battle. Now they revealed themselves and began their approach toward the Dominion fleet. Each vessel was larger than most space stations and carried enough firepower to level continents. War Marshal Thexhar finally began to understand what he was facing. The humans had not deployed their entire fleet at the beginning of the battle. They had held their most powerful vessels in reserve for the decisive moment. The tactical sophistication was beyond anything he had expected from primitives. "All ships concentrate fire on the large human vessels," he ordered. "Destroy them before they can reach firing range." The Dominion fleet poured devastating energy into the approaching Titans. The massive human ships absorbed punishment that would have vaporized smaller vessels. Their enhanced armor and shield systems had been designed specifically to survive such concentrated attacks. The Titan Earthbreaker reached optimal firing position first. Captain John Parker had trained for this moment since construction began on his ship. The vessel's experimental weapons had never been tested in actual combat, but theoretical models suggested they could crack open dreadnoughts with single shots. "Target the enemy flagship," he ordered. "Maximum power to all weapon systems." The Earthbreaker's main gun was based on the same principles as railgun technology, but scaled up to incredible proportions. Instead of firing projectiles, it launched packets of compressed plasma at 98% of light speed. The energy release was equivalent to a small nuclear explosion. The shot struck War Marshal Thexhar's flagship amidships. The massive Dominion vessel simply ceased to exist. One moment it was there, commanding the enemy fleet. The next moment there was only expanding plasma and scattered debris. The destruction was so complete that nearby ships were damaged by secondary explosions. The psychological impact was devastating. Dominion crews had never seen anything like the destruction of their flagship. Fear spread through the alien fleet faster than their communication systems could carry orders. Some ships began to withdraw without authorization, but the victory came at a terrible price. The Titan Earthbreaker had overloaded its power systems, firing the superweapon. Secondary explosions tore through the ship's hull. Captain Parker and his crew had perhaps minutes to live before their vessel suffered catastrophic failure. "All ships, this is Earthbreaker," Parker transmitted on the emergency frequency. "We are going critical and cannot maintain containment. Ramming speed toward enemy formation. It has been an honor serving with you." The dying Titan accelerated toward the densest concentration of Dominion ships. Parker aimed for a cluster of heavy cruisers that were regrouping after the flagship's destruction. His ship struck them at impossible velocity and vanished in an explosion that outshone the sun. The battle continued for 6 more hours, but the outcome was no longer in doubt. Human tactics and superior technology had broken the largest fleet in Dominion history. Surviving enemy ships fled toward their own territory carrying news of impossible defeat. Admiral Collins surveyed the aftermath from the bridge of the Earth's fury. Half the human fleet had been destroyed or crippled beyond repair. Thousands of brave men and women had died defending their homeworld. But Earth was safe, and the galaxy would never be the same. Ambassador Kyle Johnson received communications from across known space within hours of the victory. The Galactic Council requested immediate diplomatic talks. The free traders offered massive expansion of trade agreements. Dozens of species under Dominion rule declared independence and asked for human military assistance. Captain Beth Turner floated in the medical bay of her battered ship. She had been wounded again, but would survive to fight another day. The Earth's fury would be rebuilt stronger than before. Humanity had proven they belonged among the great powers of the galaxy. "What happens now?" Commander Hayes asked from the bed beside her. Beth smiled despite her injuries. "Now we help others win their freedom. The Dominion learned that humans do not surrender. Time for their slaves to learn the same lesson. The species that had rejected galactic protection had become the galaxy's protectors. They had chosen the dangerous path of independence and shown others that freedom was worth any price. The Crimson Dominion would never recover from their defeat at human hands. Across the galaxy, oppressed species looked toward Earth with new hope. The humans had proven that even the mightiest empire could be defeated by those willing to fight for their beliefs. The age of Dominion expansion was over. The age of human influence had begun. And in the depths of space, other ancient powers stirred from their long slumber. The ethereal collective sent messages of greeting to the young species that had changed everything. Even older forces took notice of humanity's achievement. The galaxy was about to become a much more interesting and dangerous place.